Chris Martin's unexpected move toward Dakota Johnson changes everything. It was supposed to be a quiet night in Malibu, an intimate Coldplay performance for close friends, collaborators, and a few lucky fans. The sun had just dipped beneath the Pacific horizon, and the air shimmered with that gentle golden warmth that seems to belong only to California evenings. But what started as an ordinary acoustic show turned into one of the most emotional moments of Chris Martin's career, and perhaps, the most revealing moment of his relationship with Dakota Johnson. For months, tabloids had been swirling with rumors of distance between the two. Whispers of tension, of time apart, of schedules that had become impossible to align. Chris had been on tour, Dakota filming back-to-back projects. The silence between them had only fueled speculation, fans wondering whether one of Hollywood's quietest, most understated couples had quietly ended things. Midway through his set, right after performing a stripped-down version of Fix You, Chris looked out into the small crowd. He seemed distracted, almost hesitant, his usual calm demeanor touched by something deeper. Then, as he began playing the opening chords of a new, unreleased song, he stopped. The crowd murmured. He set his guitar down, stood, and said softly into the microphone, "I wrote this one for someone who makes my world brighter, even when everything else feels dark." He turned, walked off the stage, and made his way through the small audience, directly toward Dakota Johnson, who was sitting quietly among the guests, her face half hidden beneath a wide-brimmed hat. As the spotlight followed him, she looked up, surprised but smiling. Chris extended his hand, and the crowd, sensing something extraordinary, fell completely silent. When she finally took his hand, he led her gently up onto the stage. There was no grand gesture, no rehearsed lines, just a man and a woman, the hum of an acoustic guitar, and the unmistakable electricity of two souls reconnecting. He looked into her eyes and said, almost in a whisper, "You've been my calm, my chaos, and my favorite song." For a long moment, Dakota didn't respond. She simply placed her hand over his heart and smiled, visibly emotional. Those in the crowd said you could see tears in her eyes, and in his too. Then, without saying another word, Chris began to sing. The song, which many believe is titled My Forever Room, hasn't been officially released, but fans who were there described it as one of his most personal compositions ever. Lyrics about distance, forgiveness, and finding your way back to someone who never stopped being home filled the air. By the time the final note faded, Dakota had tears on her cheeks. When the crowd erupted in applause, Chris leaned over and kissed her forehead, a small, intimate gesture, but one that spoke volumes. It was as if every rumor, every headline, every whisper about them had been erased in that moment. After the show, witnesses said the couple stayed close, talking quietly under the string lights long after most guests had left. One onlooker said, they weren't performing for anyone anymore. They looked like two people who'd been through a storm and finally found calm again. Later that night, the pair were spotted leaving the venue hand in hand, heading to a secluded beach house nearby. Paparazzi photos showed them walking barefoot in the sand, their silhouettes glowing under the moonlight. By the next morning, social media had exploded. Fans shared blurry clips from the performance, captions like, "He sang to her," in front of everyone, flooding Twitter and Instagram. Some called it the most romantic thing Chris Martin has ever done, while others declared, that was his way of telling the world she's still the one. Entertainment outlets scrambled for statements. Representatives for both Chris and Dakota declined to comment, fueling even more curiosity. But insiders close to the couple hinted that this might mark a turning point, a quiet reconciliation after months apart. One source told a magazine, "They've always had this unspoken bond. Even when they were apart, there was never anger, just space." That night, you could see they found their way back. Fans also pointed out how symbolic the gesture was. Chris Martin, known for his humility and emotional honesty, rarely lets the world in on his private life. For him to walk off stage, to abandon the separation between performer and person, was more than a romantic moment. It was a confession. As the days passed, more details emerged.